Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Spirit Call with me, psychic medium Jeni. In this episode, I'd like to talk about the difference between a mediumship reading and a psychic reading and give you some red flags to look for, as well as provide an example of how I tell the difference between the two as a psychic medium in a reading. So this episode is inspired by the new Tyler Henry Live from the Other Side Netflix series, where he is offering live readings to 5 previously unknown sitters on the couch. And this is really a time where, as a psychic medium, it's so exciting to see another celebrity medium work unedited. But unfortunately, myself and many of the mediums that I know are disappointed by what we're seeing on the Netflix series, because he is unfortunately representing mediumship in a bit of an inaccurate way. And so I would really like to take this opportunity to clear up some of the misconceptions about mediumship versus psychic, and again, provide you some information on what to look for or how to know if you yourself as a reader are going psychic. So going psychic is a term that you're going to hear a little bit in this video. So what is mediumship? A medium or mediumship is all about spirit communication. So as a medium begins to open up to allow the spirit world to come close to them for a time, for a reading, for the purpose of bringing through messages for the person who sits in front of them, we call that person the sitter. The spirit world will come close, and a spirit person will hopefully step forward for the medium to begin to get to know, so to speak. The spirit person has retained their memories, their experiences, their personality, who they were when they were here, is coming close to connect with the medium so that the medium can describe them and then deliver the messages that the sitter most needs to hear that day. So in an evidential reading, and I want to be clear, I'm speaking about evidential mediumship here. There are a lot of mediums who don't provide evidential readings. That's a whole other video. But in this video, I'm talking about evidential mediumship. So that means there is a process of the spirit person coming close to the medium receiving specific details about the spirit person, and then describing the spirit person in enough detail that the sitter can recognize them. That is the point of an evidential reading, to know that your loved ones have not vanished. Consciousness is still available in a higher vibration than the physical reality that we call Earth here in this reality. So as the spirit person begins to make themselves known, the medium will pick up on specific details, again, so that the sitter can recognize the person coming through. So for me personally, I think it's very important that that process is given enough time so that we know for sure, without a doubt, who this is that is stepping forward. And then the messages and information that they have to give to the sitter will be considered to be from their loved one in spirit. So specific things about the spirit person could be the relationship to the sitter. A lot of times they will speak about their passing or things that happened at the end of their life. They will speak about memories that they share with the sitter, things that the sitter will remember about them most times. Now, keep in mind, there are times when a really good piece of evidence means that it comes through and it doesn't land and it makes sense later. And so that helps us to know that the medium's not just mind reading the sitter, right? If it's stuff that they didn't even know and then they go home and ask their loved ones, that's really cool. But the bulk of the information that comes through in a reading should make sense that day, because our loved ones know what we need to hear to recognize them. And so they're going to make every effort to say hello. So from there, once we know who it is, Spirit will often, not always, but often have some guidance, some messages for the sitter. Maybe they'll speak about the things that they've seen them do since their passing. Have they had a child? Have they gotten married? Did they move? Did they cut their hair? Was there an accident that happened? And they're recovering from an injury. There could be a million things that they would want to talk about, to say, I'm still with you. Here are the ways that I'm with you, and here are the things that I see you doing since my passing. A psychic reading, on the other hand, is completely different. The source of the information is not coming from a spirit person. The information is coming from the sitter's energy field, their aura, their timeline of events, past, present, and future. And so, because the source is different, it's a completely different reading, and the information given will be completely different. So the purpose, to me, when someone comes to me for a psychic reading, we are going to talk about your past, present, and future, and the timeline of events that may or will most likely lead up to a certain outcome or situation in the future. I like to focus on helping my sitters to make decisions or to see what they need to see about a challenging situation in life, to be able to go in the direction that is best in alignment with their soul, with what they came here on earth to do, and feel fulfillment and passion and connection and purpose in their lives. But all of that information is coming from the sitter, from what is likely to come in the future based on the current energetic situation that they find themselves in the day that they come for a reading. And I often say that nothing is set in stone, but that we're picking up on what is likely to come if you were to make no changes after your reading. So as you can see, these are two very different readings. And it's important to know the difference before you book with a medium or a reader or an intuitive, because your reasons for going could be very different. So one of the disappointing things that I've seen in the Live from the Other Side Netflix show is that there will be a spirit link, but it is dropped very quickly. And then he is going psychic. So searching for that link again, getting sort of lost in the soupiness of all of the different overwhelming bits of information that can come at you as a reader, and grabbing onto one thing, saying it, grabbing onto another thing, saying that. And here's what I think is happening. Here's how a mediumship reading works for me, and how I know when I'm being pulled into psychic impressions. So for me, a spirit person will come close. I will feel as if somebody has stepped into my energy field from any direction. It could be from behind, it could be from the front, it could be from the side. Either way, I know that suddenly a stream of information has come close into my mind, and I am tapping into that information, but it feels that it is not coming from the sitter. Okay, the sitter in front of me doesn't matter, because I am tuning into their spirit people, their loved ones who have passed, asking them to come close. And as they do, an awareness hits me that somebody is here. Then I start to receive all of my first impressions about that spirit person. Is this a man or a woman? Were they young or old? What was their personality like? Were they very outgoing, a social butterfly, a super funny person? Or were they quiet? Were they cranky? There are so many things that hit me in that initial stage of beginning to build a link with a spirit person. Now, as the reading progresses, it's very likely that they're going to say something about the sitter's life. Like I said, I see that you sold the house. And what can happen is I, Jeni, will become aware of the sitter's timeline of events, of where the selling the house fits. So let's say it was 5 years ago. So now the spirit person is talking about the sitter's timeline of events, and here's 5 years ago when they sold the house. Okay. I have to know the difference between getting sucked into that timeline, which could then lead me to present day, the next 5 years of their life, the next 10 years of their life, and I could plunk into those locations and receive impressions about the sitter. But because I am not doing a psychic reading, I have to be able to park that information of they sold the house and not get pulled in because of my own curiosity of, oh, what was that house like? Where was it? I might want to know so much about that information, but it's actually none of my business. And so the medium has to be skilled enough to know the difference in their own mind and their tendencies to get pulled in that direction, especially when they are struggling to have that strong link with the spirit person. It's very natural to start to panic and look for bits of information and end up accidentally going psychic and claiming that the spirit person is still telling them that information. And so for me, always going back to the spirit person and learning to be able to hold that link and keep the spirit person as close as I possibly can. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it isn't. We all communicate differently, but the most important thing is to never communicate something that you picked up psychically to the sitter and call it mediumship, because that sitter is going to take that information much more seriously if it's advice related than they, considering that it comes from their loved one, than they would if it just came from just some random person or a psychic. I strongly believe that there are a lot of ethics involved with spirit communication. So that's why the show is so disappointing to me, is because I see him losing that link, ending up in that sort of timeline of events, however that works for him. And I actually think that he's not fully conscious and aware of that process for him. And so he's picking up bits and pieces of random psychic impressions and saying they. And so this is my number one red flag for if you are receiving a reading and the medium has not helped you to understand or realize or validate who it is that's coming through, and they're using the term they as a blanket statement for spirit in general. So when you see a reader say, they want you to know this, they want you to know that, but they haven't actually taken the time to figure out who they are, is it your grandparents, your grandmother and your grandfather? Is it your mother and your sister? Who's they? We need to know who they are. And so that's a number one red flag in a reading. If you see a medium say they over and over again in many of their readings that you can find maybe online, or if you are receiving a reading from them, you have the right to say, whoa, hold on. Who's they? Okay. I really want people to understand that it's okay to ask for clarification and to say, I'm confused. You haven't told me who they are. At all times, it's important that you, as a medium or a sitter, are receiving information in a way that makes sense. You want people to be able to follow along. If people are getting lost, that's another sign that you're kind of in and out and going psychic and picking up random bits, and people aren't able to follow along. So if you're not following along, I would wonder if the medium is going psychic, and I would speak up and say, I'm not sure who's saying what and where this is going, and I need you to explain this to me a little bit better. It's okay to say that. If the medium is suddenly speaking about a lot of personal details about you and your life, asking you questions around, did you recently quit your job? Oh, because I see you doing this and that and going here. And, if suddenly you go from, your grandmother wants you to know this, to then really focusing on you and your path and your future, I would tend to think that the medium has dropped their link or ignored their link and got sucked into the psychic timeline, so to speak. So I want to hear from you. Has this happened to you? Have you received a reading like this before? Are you a medium and struggling to know the difference between your mediumship and your psychic work? Submit your questions. You can always email me at info@jennyjaranis.com or leave a comment in this video and I'll do my best to get back to you. That's it for today. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.